A year before I finally quit, my mother was on her deathbed, and the night before she died, she said, "Ed, you've got to stop gambling. You'll lose everything." And I spent the next year of my life proving her absolutely right.
The power of the disease, how it affected me, was just beyond words can even describe. At the end of my addiction, I was in a very bad way. I had my kids taken away from me. I was thrown out of my house. I was involved in criminal activities.
People were always saying, "Can't you see what you're doing? Just quit, just stop."
When you're in the grips of this illness, you don't know where to turn, and it's definitely a hidden disease that most people don't understand.
There is some stigma around problem gambling, certainly around addictions in general, but I believe even more so with problem gambling, that people sometimes do think it's bad behavior.
To really understand a problem as complex as problem gambling, you have to understand it from the molecular level to the global level and back again.
We clearly know, if you look at, particularly at brain imaging, and if you look at the course of gambling, that gambling is an addiction like any other addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or gambling, that it sets off the same chemical changes in the brain as other addictions. And we also know that it responds in the same way in terms of treatment and ongoing recovery and support.
And for the problem gambler in everyday life, that is a healing moment. To sit down in a chair and hear that maybe, just maybe, you're not the worst person in the world, you're a sick person who is in need of the resources that a place like the Massachusetts Council can help provide, that's a moment of profound relief, a moment of profound reinterpretation, a moment of profound healing, and it starts people on a path to healthier living.
The Massachusetts Council on Compulsive Gambling is a private, nonprofit health agency, and it is dedicated to helping problem gamblers and their families, as well as the professionals who work with them. Council was founded in 1983 by Tom Cummings. Tom was a person who had gambling problems himself, and when he sought help for his problems, he realized there was hardly any help out there available.
At the time, the lottery was just beginning, and he felt that there was definitely a need, since the state was involved in the lottery, to support it.
And then he basically took calls from people with gambling problems out of his own kitchen in his house, and he used to say that he funded it through his kitchen, in his wallet, in his hip pocket.
He definitely wanted to create an organization that would be recognized as a resource to help people who suffer from this affliction.
The council does not take a position for nor against gambling. Most people who gamble do so in safety with no problems. There's a smaller percentage that do have problems, and that's what the council is concerned about, preventing those problems, intervening early on when they exhibit a problem, and then make sure treatment is available.
This is a gambling nation. It has been since the outset. It's one of our favorite pastimes, but it's one that also has its associated costs. And educating people about what has truly become a national pastime, but also one that has its downside, is something that I think is very responsible of communities to do.
The council tries to make it known that problem gambling can be an issue for people, that there is some kind of hope for getting better, and that there are resources. And we do that we've done media campaigns, we've done radio and television advertising, billboard advertising, a lot of interviews with the media, all to really alert people that if they're in that situation, that there is some kind of help. The council has a 24-hour helpline where a person can call and talk to a live person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That initial contact somebody makes when they cry out for help, you have to know what you're doing, or you can really hurt a person.
The council does not treat problem gamblers. The council, on the helpline, the council acts as an empathetic listener and tries to connect the person who calls with professional counseling and treatment.
We have to make sure that we have a broad coalition of folks, both in public health and outside of public health, who know what the impact of gambling is and know what the impact of all addiction is.
We run an annual conference, we run trainings every year that lead toward certification as a problem gambling specialist, and we run a lot of special topic trainings as well.
The council created a program that we're trying to put into the correctional facility because nobody is addressing that in the correctional system. They address substance abuse, anger management, things like that, but very few people are screening for problem gambling.
The council needs to make sure that all of the agencies in Massachusetts who might see somebody with a gambling problem are equipped to recognize that person's problem and have the resources available to address those problems within their own systems rather than simply referring them out. The council is really the sole advocate for services for problem gamblers and their families, as well as the professionals who work with them in the Commonwealth.
The Mass Council has always provided the Bureau, I think, with a level of expertise as it relates to how we think about gambling and gambling addiction, both from a policy standpoint, a prevention standpoint, a treatment standpoint. And so they've always been our partners. I think that that's how we do our work best, when we do it in partnership with the people who really know the issues on an in-depth basis.
After a number of years of working at the council, we began to say to ourselves, is there some way that we can maybe prevent some people from getting to this stage of devastation?
And to be able to sort of intervene upon somebody here rather than here means that there's a tremendous cost savings with that single individual. And what prevention programs do is they cast a very big net over thousands, possibly millions of individuals through things like education programs in our schools, educating kids about something that frankly you don't hear much about.
In the schools nowadays, they talk about drugs and alcohol, but no one's in there talking about gambling, and I think it's very important because I saw what it did to my two children, and it harmed them terribly.
The number of young people that are gambling today, internet poker, Texas Hold'em, things like that. The young people today don't actually consider that gambling. They consider this as an intellectual challenge, me versus you. The vehicle just happens to be money. Before you know it, they're devastated by financial loss, and the parents have no idea.
Educating a new generation of children about gambling problems and the fact that they're real and it affects some people, and here are the warning signs and here are the resources available to you. Once more, it's a tremendous investment that pays off in big ways, and it's much cheaper than getting at somebody at rock bottom.
The number of seniors who, maybe by boredom or whatever, we do the trips down to Foxwoods. I've done some programs lately where I speak to councils on aging regarding problem gambling. And it's amazing because everybody you talk to knows somebody who has the problem. The Asian initiative that the council has undertaken, I think, is tremendously important. Also the financial planning piece.
It's the family members, it's the friends, it's the parents, it groups so many people that it might be one compulsive gambler who could be affecting 100 lives.
The impact of the council in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has been to be recognized as the authority on problem gambling and treatment of problem and prevention of problem gambling.
The council has provided services where there were none. Today, if somebody has a gambling problem, they can actually look up in the yellow pages. They can find that there is help. They can go online and find that there is help.
I can honestly say that the Mass Council saved my life.
I could not believe the changes that have occurred in my life since I stopped gambling.
Today, my life is absolutely wonderful, and I'm just very grateful on a daily basis that my life is the way it is, that I don't have to gamble anymore.
Today I have a wife. We were just married last August after an 18-year courtship. In November, my daughter gave birth to my only grandchild, his grandson Sean. Life is just so good. I mean, I've got so much to be grateful for. I couldn't have imagined that with the mess that I was in.
It's weights. It's like I was being held down with weights, and I have freed myself from those heavy weights that were just taking over my entire existence. So life is great without gambling.